explosive radiation of that plant, and by the end of the Devonian, all plant groups except for the angiosperms were already there. They evolved from very minute plants, well, not bigger than this, into real trees, for instance, these progymnosperms. And the first land plant is Göttingen. Here we have a compression form, but the best knowledge we have is from the work done by Diane Edwards and our colleagues in Cardiff, who processed large amounts of sediment to isolate prototype remains, which are then studied with the SEM, that show us all the features that we want to know. This slide gives you an impression of what happened during the Devonian. During the early Devonian, plants were still very small, a couple of centimeters, not more than that. And then we see that the vascular system becomes more complex, so there is an increase in size. The earliest land plants were all bifurcated, but then when monopodial growth developed, which meant that the plants could become higher. Another major key innovation was heterosphoric, making the plants less dependent on human habitats. We have photospheric trees since the Middle Devonian. They had no leaves. Secondary growth, formation of wood, and then lateral branches were more or less flattened, planated. That's a much more efficient growth form, and trees became a little bit more like we know them today. And real woody trees we know since the late Devonian, and also the earliest leaves we know from the late Devonian. And finally, crown creation is the invention of the seed, making a plant independent or largely independent of its environment. But we will concentrate during this talk here on the early Devonian, something like this here. And therefore, we go to Scotland, to northern Scotland, to a small village called Rhynie. And about 1 hour driving northeast or northwest of Aberdeen, there's a small inlier of Devonian rocks in the middle of all the rocks, and those are sediments and volcanic rocks. And in Rhynie, William Mackey, a physician who also had a doctorate in geology, discovered this chert when he was mapping. He was practicing at Elgin, but apparently his patients were very healthy, so he could spend time in the field. And what he found was a dark rock, silicious rock, and as a good geologist, he made thin sections. And then he saw that each thin sections contained fantastically diverse plants, and he engaged two paleobotanists, David Glenn and Robert Kitts, to study these plants. Unfortunately, Glenn died before the first paper was published, so he was replaced by Lang. And then between 1917 and 1921, a series of 5 papers were published about the plants from the Rhynie Chert. And that was a real sensation, because the plants are really very well preserved. As you can see here, every cell is there. You often can see details below or even within the cells. If you go to the locality, you won't see much. It's a field, and if you're unlucky, there are even grazing cows on it. You're not allowed to dig there because it's protected by law. When Mackey found his first Rhynie Chert specimens there, they made a couple of trenches in 1913, 1914, and that's where the first material was described from. And then in 1964, another trench was made, and that's where most of the ore material comes from. And these are the last remnants of this 1964 trench. And this photograph here is from mid-1970s, and it shows you here Winfried Rhynie, my predecessor in Munster, visiting the Rhynie Chert locality. He started the Rhynie Chert in Munster, the Rhynie Chert research in Munster, and here this is Jeffrey Lyon, who was the owner of this field and who later gave it to the Scottish National Heritage Trust. And then it was quiet, no exposures anymore, until 2003. And then a new trench was made. This one was open for a week, and the church were exposed in the trench. And I want to show you two people. One here, that's Nigel Truan, a geologist from Aberdeen, who has done a lot of work about the geology of the Rhynie Chert, and the person right here, which is Hagenhas, who is a technician in Munster, and he has made, well, virtually all the top 10 sections you will see in this talk. The church shows very well preserved plants. Here we have the cross section, or a little bit of leaf section. You see the dark layer here, we come back to that later on. And this is a section just following the Bennett lane, and these stems are standing up upright, in the right position. And you see how dense they are standing. And if you go into detail, you see marvelous preservation. These are the tracheids, they're a little bit dark. This is the phloem tissue, which is normally rarely preserved, but here already we have the four sections. These structures here are probably fungi. The age of the Rhynie Chert is about 411 million years old. There are two radiometric datings, recent ones. One is by Perry that comes to 411. There's one that gives a slightly younger age, 403, but that's a little bit debatable. At least the older one fits much better with the terminology that has been done by Charlie Wellman. And until about the mid-1990s, it was unknown how thick the whole sequence was. So starting in 1994, they made a number of drills, and here you see the core material in order to see how thick the sequence was, and how many of these chert lenses and layers are present. And the whole sequence appears to be about 200 meters thick. So the age of the Rhynie Chert is about here, and the beginning of this Devonian marks the really explosive radiation of plant plants. Here the earliest plants of Göttingen is just achieved the earliest trees, the earliest seeds, that places it all in perspective. When Mackey wrote his first paper on the Rhynie Chert in 1913, he interpreted this deposit as a hot spring deposit. And he was completely right. But the final proof came out many years later, when this block was found, and this shows it a very peculiar structure. These are modern hot springs, silica-rich water, and it's completely identical. This is the environment you have. You can compare with, for instance, Yellowstone Park or the type of volcanic field in New Zealand. And here you see the hot spring. The water that comes out is about 74 degrees. But it cools down very rapidly towards the rims of this pond, and you see that the north stage is already developing here. Here it's still warm, you have cyanic material at the north stage, and the things you have to remove from this here to imagine how Rhynie looked like is simply the trees here in the background. But it must have been something like this. And if you have these cherts and individual chert layers can be up to 1 meter thick. These represent several events, or at least several stages. For instance, here we have the soil, sandy, with a lot of coating material from land plants. Here we have the horizon, terrestrial with eglated phyton, the most common plant in there. Here we have cavities encrusted with fungi encrusted with silica, with white silica pockets containing charophytes, so they are small ponds. And here we have another soil horizon, very thin, and a layer of phyton again. So on every of these layers is a single flooding. So the list of plant species from Rhynie is quite long. There are a lot of fungi in here, and many were described by Göttingen at night. But the problem is, we can't do that much of them because they simply associate the plants with the fungi with their host, and without knowing the reproductive structures, you simply can't identify them. These are just IP finding particular plants. But in the last decades, we've been able to describe a number of fungi of which we have reproductive structures, so we can classify them accordingly. Then we have lichen, we have nematophytes, algae, and then plant plants. And of these we have sporophytes, but also a couple of gametophytes. And the last thing we have gametophytes, that's something very special, because fossil gametophytes are not so common, except for maybe, well, mosses and amber as we've seen these days, but usually you don't find them. Alexander already said something about preparation techniques, photography. We still study these charts the same way as Kitson and Lang and Wynne simply by making thin sections. But the word thin section is not really appropriate because the sections we make are several hundred micron thick to begin with. The only criterion we have is that they should be translucent and you should be able to look through. And so we glue them on a slide, and therefore we use special synthetic resin, which is thermoplastic, which means that it hardens when it cools down, and would it be possible to dip these lights in the front?
Alex.
So, if it cools down, it hardens up, but if you warm it up again, it becomes fluid. It becomes fluid again. So then we cut it the normal way, and you end up with something like this. What you then usually do is grind it further down. Let's see it from here. But you see there's still a lot of material here between the object that you want. Oh, no, we don't know. Don't want those lines. Between the object and the slide. So we heat it again, turn it around, and glue it back on again, and then grind it from the other side. Until we have this. And sometimes there are slides that you've got to see that have been turned around up to 6-7 times. Simply to have this special object that we want to see really in focus. The other point for initially making these thicker slides is that if we have larger objects, think for instance about on things like arthropods and sporangia, that you have a better three-dimensional idea of the whole thing. So what do we find in the chert? These things, bacteria. We find cyanobacteria, various forms. We find a lot of fungi. Here we have selection of chytrids. For instance, on a spore of a python, but also here a chytrid on a fungal hyphae. And here you still can see how these different fungi are sitting on their host, and that's all very well preserved. And the good thing is that in the last decades, a number of fungi reproductive structures have been found, for instance, these ones here. And therefore we are able to classify in the other mycetes. I've shown you on one of these vertical sections, this white spot, that said, well, they are charophytes, here they are. Pale in that color, a very small charophyte, but in all features it resembles a modern charophyte. And the nice thing is this is the normal form, and here this one is affected by a fungus. And the reaction of the host, of the charophyte cell, is that the cells start to swell up. And we also know that from modern charophytes, here, this is the infection here, and this is the detail, this is the fungus that goes into the charophyte cell. So what we can see here are interactions between fungi, and in this case algae, but we also see other plants that show things like this. Alexander already mentioned the oldest lichen. Well, this we describe as Winfrenatia, named after Winfried and Renata Rhynie. It's a structure seen from the water, for some kind of network. If you see it in the other direction, perpendicular to that, you see a number of pockets. So this is a fungal hyphae, these things here. And in there, you see a network of fungal hyphae closing these round cells, these things here, and there's a cyanobacteria. Normally, fungi are symbiosis between fungi and algae, but we also know them with cyanobacteria, and the preservation of the chert is so marvelous that you can see things like cell division and all these developmental stages. So this is, for me, and I will show you a couple of other examples, an argument to say that this chert, or at least the fixation in silica, must have happened very quickly. So we are looking really at snapshots. We also find these kind of things, so-called banded tubes, metaphytes probably. It's a nice little word for things we don't understand. It's a thing that has been interpreted as a fungus, a lichen, as an alga, or I don't know what, but you find them in Silurian, Devonian, and they're very easily to be confused with tracheae sometimes. The last part of this talk will be about this one. This is the old construction based on Ges and Lang, a publication from 1921, where it has a rhizome with upright axes. The modern reconstruction shows it like this, with an axis that continue to grow, and when they become too long, they can't hold themselves upright, they bend downwards, and when they touch the ground, they develop small rhizoids consisting of a single cell, and then it goes up again. And this is the modern interpretation. And the reason for thinking that these were originally standing upright is that we have stomata all around the axis, and the rhizoid prefers to develop directly near the stomata. And actually, the is the most common plant in the Rhynie Chert. Axes are about 3 to 5 millimeters in diameter. Here we see the tracheates, the vesicle strand, the phloem cortex, the epidermis, the black line here around. It's beautiful. We see stomata. Here is one, there is one, here is one, and there is one. And we also see this dark band, this dark ring here, which is very peculiar. It's not a different kind of tissue, and we will come back to that on the next slide. But here we have these U-formed axes here, and if we look at the lower side, we see these long rhizomes. This is a longitudinal section, so showing you the stoma here, the epidermis, stoma seen from the front. This is the vascular strand, and this is bifurcation. So all these features enable us to reconstruct these plants. Here we come back to this dark ring. Here we see it again, another specimen, detail. And if we go into detail, we see that these are not thick-walled cells or different kind of tissue. No, these are fungal hyphae, filling up the intercellular spaces. And the fungi penetrate through the stomata until some 4 to 5 cells below the epidermis, and then they start to bifurcate and form vesicles, and these are mycorrhizae. As we call them, vesicular or avascular mycorrhizae. And the word avascular refers to tree-like, avascles, and the contact between the fungus and the plant is shown here in this slide. The fungus penetrates the cell, what you see here, and then it starts to grow out. It forms a tree-like structure, and that's where the exchange between the plant and the fungus takes place. The host also has a reaction, and normally those avascles don't exist for more than 3 to 5 days. And that gives you again an impression about how fast the whole thing was, at least fixed. I won't say fossilized or mineralized, but at least fixed in the silica. This is a reproductive structure allowing us to classify these things appropriately. And we also see some of the cells, these structures have been interpreted as cyanobacteria, and we know that there are nowadays a number of plants that have symbiosis with cyanobacteria. We can't say that here, because in the last picture, the mycorrhiza, we see the host reaction. The plants are still living when it was affected by the fungi. Here we are not sure. Occasionally, these plants, these stands were flooded by silica-rich water, and we have small crustaceans here, and they are attached to the actual plants and show wonderful details, and we are currently working with house of paper on these nice little creatures, and we also find more animals associated with Egleophyton. I'm still talking about the same plant. This is a stoma. This is a subtle chamber, and this structure here, which may be not so sharp, it's a very special animal. We see a couple more here, and these are nematodes. And they intrude the plant via the stomata, and then they nestle somewhere here in the cells. And in the beginning, we didn't know what they were, because these were